Hello space engineers, welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to build a grinder pit. Behind me you see two victims for the grinder pit. Those are going to be our test subjects. All of this base here, this is the new base. It's the new wind turbine and decoy. These lumps on the ends here, they have you got decoys in them and welders. So this should help protect me from whatever happens. There have been a lot of parallax attacks where these arrowheads come and shoot my base with missiles and autocannons and whatnot. Today we're going to cut a big hole in this floor because there's a big pit under there from all the prior attacks that we've had, and we're going to build a grinding pit in it. So the first thing I want to do is to open this up, see where our pit really sort of is. These things are how big? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I make it 7 blocks long, if I make the grinder pit 7 blocks long, it should be big enough for all of these critters to go in it. So if that is the middle, whoops. So if that's the middle, we're going to go 7, then we go 3 blocks on either side. So the plan here is to build a grinding pit where we dump wrecks on the floor here and then we push them into the pit.
Energy
That's the goal.
low.
So they're not going to fall very far when they go into the pit. We definitely don't want that to happen. There's a lot of room down here. So this, what I've marked here is where I want the grinders to be. The front of the grinders. And this pit also needs to be 3 or 4 blocks deep. I'm going to get in here and measure some things. Be easier if this is a full block, so let's make this a full block. Now we gotta get a drill out, get this garbage out of the way. I had to hop out of the pit and come over here to try and get charged up because I only have one power left. So I just turned my lights off to try and conserve power. Let's see if we can build a chair in time so that I can recharge. Because otherwise, I have to go downstairs or get in the cockpit.
No energy.
It was close. I wanted it to be 4 deep as a bare minimum, so the bottom will be the block below this. We gotta dig a little lower. And we're getting really close to the iron, which is okay. We just don't want to destroy it by accident. We want to save all that. Okay, guys. This is 4 deep by 7 long. And I'm standing on the floor of the grinder pit. We're going to have grinders in here. So I got to dig out some more stone. I have to dig out more stone so I can put the grinders back in this row and have conveyors connecting behind them. Then I got to dig out this area and take out the floor where we are going to drop the grids in here. I'm going to build a ramp. Eventually, there will be access to this from underground because I'm going to build that into my base. My base is basically underground, so... Okay. So we've made some more rooms, so we're going to lay out some more of the pit. Let's place our grinders. Grinders don't affect the same grid, so it's not going to grind the blocks below it. It's not going to grind the grid it's connected to. The reason I'm putting these here is we're going to have a ramp and parts are going to slide down, and they need to slide into these grinders. So okay, so those are all the grinders. At this point, I am going to weld all this up. So I'm going to do a bunch of welding and come back because I know this stuff is the way it's going to be. I'm not going to change this later. So I think I'm just going to grind up this floor and use that as my starting materials. Right. I'm going to grind up this floor and use that as a source of steel for all the welding.
Energy low.
Okay, obviously we have a lot more drilling to do. Okay, we got all that welded up. We haven't connected anything to the base yet, but we should be able to go straight back. We should be able to connect to our conveyor network. Just go through here. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to run a conveyor right through here. And we're going to want to be able to walk around it. So instead of running it through here, we're going to run it through the ceiling. We're going to carve these two blocks out. So that has to hook up to this, and we now have our entrance, so that's pretty cool. Maybe I should also grind out this. Yeah. Okay. Lots of cargo containers. Okay, what we need to do is bring this down with a C piece. Okay, space engineers, I got the piping laid out to connect this to the base. So I just dug straight through and connected it to my main pipe that goes straight down into the rest of the base. And I've run the pipes along the bottom here and just connected them at the end. They only really need to be connected at the end because these are all connected on their sides. So I'm going to weld all this up. And then we're going to get on to the next stage, which is going to be building the ramp. Exciting! Okay, we got green lights on all of our conveyoring, so I know that we are hooked up. I am going to I'm going to go take a nap for a minute because I've been working a while and I'm getting a little tired, so I'll do that. I will bring you back in when I'm done with my nap. Seems like an appropriate time. You probably don't want to watch me sleep. Okay, I finished my nap. let's get this grinder pit finished. At least we're going to try to. What we need to do now is work on the actual pit. I have a theory here. The theory is that if you use these blocks that take up a whole half of the block in front, then none of the small grid pieces will have any places to hide around the grinders and actually all get cleaned up. That's my theory. So we'll see if that works with this grinder pit. I know it's going to throw things out the top, and I have an idea about something I'd like to try to reduce how much that happens. That may be in a separate tutorial if it works or helps. Okay, so at this point I need to weld up this back layer that I'm going to build. Because I'm not going to be able to get at things after this. So, need to weld them now. So let's get some more steel. And let's weld up this row. So this pit is going to be longer, and I'm going to have to dig the hole bigger. That's okay. We'll just get digging. So the plan here, ultimately, for this ramp is that it's going to be a 2x1 slope all the way down. So I may have to remove a couple of blocks worth of this floor. I may have to remove a couple more blocks of the floor up there in order to get that ramp that we're looking for. I know I'm going to have to remove these blocks. So I'm just going to dig it all out now. I was hoping I could use the original pit and that it would, from all the attacks, and that would provide me with a little less digging to do, but it's still been a lot of digging. You know, I may need to use that last row for grinders. Now that I really get a good look at this, I'm thinking I'm going to need to do that. Alright, so I'm going to weld this up. Okay, next row. More digging required. More digging required. Gonna get these voxels out of our way. Now. Okay, now we're at a point where I can see if my next part of my plan is going to work, which is to put grinders here. I think we can put them back one farther. So let's do that. Put them back one farther, which means more grinding and more digging. Yay, our favorite things to do. I actually don't mind digging all that much, but you know, a little bit goes a long way. Let's just say that. Okay, can I put these grinders in here? Yes, okay. So if we put a grinder, grinders need to not have voxel in them, just like welders. So let's see, can we put one in here? Yeah, we can. So what is this gonna look like? Is it gonna look like a good idea when we're done? Or will it look like a bad idea? This build is a convenience build for me on this Pertam playthrough. It's going to help. I'm having to do salvage to get a variety of materials and things, and this is going to help me grind up these small grid ships without having to suffer a lot. Other than doing a tutorial, that is the purpose for doing this build.
Energy critical.
Making good progress on the pit. Funny how it doesn't show all the textures properly on all the blocks. I think we're probably recharged. See, I feel like those need to hang out one more block. So I think I feel like I've made a mistake here. Misplaced the top grinders, that's what I think. So the goal of these grinders up here, the reason they're there is to try and stop things from sliding back out. That's what they're for. So I don't think they're going to do that in this position. I think they either need to be back one and up one, or they need to be forward one. So we're going to go forward one. Yeah, it looks like it'll probably do the job. Okay, so the only other thing I need to do here that wasn't planned is put grinders on here. So let's add a bunch of grinders here. We'll just hook it in right here. Just like that. And then we'll put one of these in here. Yeah, we'll put one of these in there. So the floor looks good. Okay, so that's, well, maybe the whole backside should be that color. Yeah, let's do that. So this is the very basics of the pit. I had an idea that there'd be a hinge here that would drop things over. The goal with this design is to have a big platform here that dumps the scrap into the pit. And so the way I am planning on doing that is by having a hinge up here. So we'll see how that's going to work out. Let's weld this up. Okay, so let's go negative. We'll go all the way. Okay, so if I put this here, so that's basically what we're looking at with our dumper. That should allow me to place anything that'll fit in here. Maybe one more. We'll do one more. And then I can put anything that might possibly fit in here using my dumper. So that looks about right. So I gotta dig some more voxels out of here is what this means. So I won't be able to get that door to come all the way down. I won't be able to get this flipper. I guess we can call it a flipper. Well, I won't be able to get the flipper all the way down unless there's a little more room, because these voxels are all in the way out here. So I'm just going to dig all this out, and then I'm going to lay all that out. And if that's all successful, then we'll weld it all up. So that looks good enough, so let's lay this floor out. So let's change the settings. I don't want it to go all the way down. I want it to go really close. That's the lower limit. Now let's reverse it. Turn off the hinge lock. Did it accept? It didn't accept that. Okay, well, I didn't get to see all that, and that's a real shame. So some kind of clang event happened, and all of this stuff got blown up. And I didn't get to see any of it because of whatever's going on with the fact that we're on a server. So, you know, if you're going to film a tutorial on a server, maybe you should avoid all your clang events because you may not get to see them. So what actually happened with that clang event is that I set the limit to 90 degrees, and that instantaneously moved the hinge to the 90-degree position, which meant that the scaffolding we had slammed into the floor scaffolding really hard and caused this explosion. That's what actually happened here. So we're just gonna rebuild it and try again. Okay, so let's try this again. We don't have to have a dumping bin. It's not required. I just thought it would be a neat feature, so if I can't get it to work, I'm not gonna worry about it too much. Lower limit, -89. Firm. Torque. Change this to something reasonable. Okay. And then braking torque will be the same. Upper limit is going to be 75. And velocity is going to be 0.5. I mean, it had told me I couldn't place that block originally, like this one. It told me I couldn't place it, so let's see what it's going to do now. I told it to only go to 89. Okay, looks like that
Energy critical.
Looks like that listened to me. Okay, well, I have finished laying everything out that needs to be welded up still. I've got a connection through here for these grinders on this side. We don't actually need a second hinge here. Space Engineers doesn't care about actual physics. It really only cares about Space Engineers physics, so it's just about how much force the hinge applies, not how centered it is or any of the rest of that stuff. So the hinge is just over here on the side. That should not cause us any problems. I am going to take a break. And I'm going to come back and weld all this up. And we're going to test it and see how it does. The pit has been welded up, and we are going to set up a button panel to control the grinders on/off. So we're just setting the text for the button right now. We've put the grinders in a group, so we're going to add the group to the button, toggle on/off. Going to fix the font size so that you can see it. And now we need to set up the dump button. So now we're going to set up the dump button, which will control the hinge and tell it to reverse, basically, which should drop our victim into the pit. So we're going to set that up by setting the text and then assigning the action. Then we'll be able to test it out. Okay, we are ready to perform this test. Let's turn on the grinders. Press F to activate, or the left mouse button. Okay, they're all on, so that's good. Turning it off works. Now let's try the dump. What happens? Let's look at this. Is this a good mechanism? Is it going to fit past that other wreck? Okay, yeah, barely it will fit past. Okay, so we're going to let it go. We're going to see what it does here. See, I'm not liking this right now. What I'm seeing is that the wreck is gonna slam into the top of the pit. It's gonna fall out, slam into the top of the grinders or whatever, and not really do what I want it to do, which is get into the pit properly. So, while this is kind of neat looking, I think we're gonna get rid of it and just do a something that's going to just slide across the floor and push everything into the pit. I think that's going to be a better actuation. So let's undump it, and I will grind this down and get started on adding a piston to push things. This is going to be a fairly simple design. I'm going to elevate the piston above the floor to just prevent it from scraping or bashing into the floor. And then we are going to put some metal plates on the end to push the wrecks forward. Now I can tell that I'm going to need to change the position of this piston. I was thinking it had 3 blocks of pushing, but I can see here that it has 4. So I am going to need to move all that back 1 block. That will maximize the amount of stuff, the size of what I can push in here. So I'm going to do that. We have finished getting that set up. It is the proper width. And it is hooked up to this dump button. So it is now advancing. Slowly advancing, shoving our victim towards its death, its demise, its final resting place in our cargo containers. And we could make this faster. I'm just being cautious for the first run, the very first time. We're going to run it anyways, because we're doing testing right now. So I'm going to undo that, reverse that, and I'm going to hop in my little ship here that I can use to pick up the wrecks. Okay. So we need to pick up one of these victims, and my preference is to do the one closest here. So we're going to do this one. Now it's locked. Okay. So let's get out. We will unlock this guy. I will lock off. That's concerning that we're sinking. Does that mean we don't have enough lift? I mean, it may mean that, even though I did use this thing to bring the wreck over here. No, we have enough lift. We're just having problems because Space Engineer's inertial dampening system wasn't able to recalculate the mass of the grid properly for some reason. Okay. Mag plate. Auto lock off. Unlock. Okay, so our first victim is there. We're just going to put this thing down. Okay, we are going to turn the grinders on, and we are going to start the dump process. It's pushing it. It's pushing it. What is going to happen? Oh, it's already starting to grind it. That's kind of cool. Whoop, that one got thrown out. So you see there's some problems, obviously, where it throws things out. I don't know if this is steep enough, really. Yep, there went one. It's not really steep enough. Look at that. Not really, this slope isn't, it's not steep enough. That's what I get out of this. This slope is not steep enough. So I am going to make some modifications to make this slope steeper. And then we're going to try the next victim. So obviously this is not ideal because I had to go in there and help those things. Oop, there they go. Yeah, so that's a grinder pit thing. Yeah. So we're going to have to do something about that. we're going to have to do something about this angle. We need it to be steeper. Okay, so this one is not dragging me down, and I think the reason is because when I connected to it, it was not, when I locked onto it, it was not connected to the base. So we're just gonna this thing lined up here. Lower it. Lego. Okay, let's go dock this thing. Okay, so as you can see, there's a skirt back here. I expanded the grinder pit to be one wider, so it is 7 grinders wide now. And I changed the slope from 2x1s to 1x1s. And as you can see down there, I added access. So I would have preferred to have a slightly wider opening to fit things in, but we'll see how this goes. My other idea was to add like a top. So you shove this in, and then maybe the top comes down. It has grinders on it, so that the grinders will fling the bits back into the pit. They get flung out. I don't know. I'm gonna go down here and close this door. Okay, so I'm gonna set up a control panel for the pit. I think I'm gonna do it over here this time. Okay, let's do the business. Grinders on. Dump on. Into the pit with you, my unwilling sacrifice. No, it didn't fit. It didn't fit. Oh no! It's working on it. It's trying to get it in there. And somehow we've failed. I think that this thing is stuck on that. So if I just reverse the dump, there we go. So it is mostly grinding most of that up. There are little pieces that get flung out, which is what a lid might help with. A lid with grinders, because I think a regular lid, the parts are just going to phase through it is what's going to happen. Okay, well, that seems to be all it's going to grind up. Grinders off. I'm going to clean some of this up. It would be nice to not have to do that. So if you don't solve this problem, where it throws pieces out, as I failed to do, you're going to have to deal with this. All these little pieces everywhere. So, you know, there's that. It may be possible to contain those flying pieces by building this directly into the voxel and using the voxel to contain all the pieces. it may be possible to have some kind of lid that folds down and has grinders in it that sort of kicks things back down. That might be possible. So I don't really know. I haven't tried it yet. That was something I wanted to try with the second piece, but the first piece wasn't successful, so I had to modify the pit, and I only had one other piece. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this Space Engineers tutorial. I hope you now understand the basics of at least one way to build a grinder pit. There are lots of other ways to build them, but this is the way that I chose for this tutorial. So, I hope that you are all having a great day, and I hope you can join me again for the next tutorial.